Hey guys, in this video we're going to use Laravel and Vue Js to create the API driven single page application. Okay, and what's the difference and why we going to try to do this is that because well, usually if you know the in Laravel is coming with the Vue.js by default, you can create it with any problem just using the Laravel application and the structure. Okay, well, we're going to continue using the structure, but single page application we need a little bit a different approach to create this. And why we need a single page application, because well, obviously we can use the routes that they coming from Vue.js and not the routes that they coming from Laravel. Okay, so we're going to divide the two parts. That the first part is that we're going to create the API. It's the part that we start from there, and then the second part is that we create our front end, and then we're going to consuming this simple API. Okay, well, the application that we're going to create is going just to put some articles in the database, and then we're going to consume it, like I said, in the front end. Okay, let's go to start with creating our application. In my case, well, that's something that you should have already installed in your system. That's the PHP. I hope so that you have the latest version of PHP. You're going to need as well Node.js, well, Yarn if you want, you can install as well. Then you're going to need the composer as well, and in my case I install with the composer Laravel. I install globally, so means that I can start a Laravel project in any part of my system, just running Laravel new and then the name of the project. And in your case, if you don't want to install globally, you just can use a composer to install it, or you can just clone the Laravel repository. Okay, in my case I'm in one directory, there's PHP, and this directory is a little bit well, it's the directory that I have a valid park inside. What's mean valid park is that for serve our PHP application, in our case I'm going to use a valid, and down in the description I'm going to leave a link for you guys that you can go and have a look how you can set up a valid in your local system. And you see that it's just beautiful to serve your PHP projects and for local development environment, and it's very quickly actually. But if you want to use XAMPP or MAMP, it's up to you, so you can use it and no problem at all. Probably it's going to be a little bit different in the domain, okay, because valid by default we have the domain with the .test extension in the end, okay, and in your case probably it's going to be different. But that's, I think that that's just the only difference between using a valid or using something different. Okay, let's start with saying Laravel, and then we say new, we put a name of the project. In my case it's going to, we're going to call it Lara-API. Okay, you can call your application whatever you like. It's going to generate for us Laravel application. Okay, and if we say cd in Lara API, we can see that we have our application generate here. The first thing that I always like to do is that I'm just copying the env file, the example env file that we have. I'm copying this file in the new create. Well, I'm going to create a new env file and copy the example file inside. Okay, then we can open with the code editor. In my case I'm using Visual Studio. In your case you can use whatever you like and whatever you prefer. Well, because we're using a Visual Studio, so I'm jumping in the terminal that is coming built into the Visual Studio. Okay, so as you can see that first of all we have prompt and we have the env file here. So what we can do in the env file is that we can change some params here, and we can set up our backend application. In the app name we're going to call it Lara, and we say API. Okay, that's going to be Lara API, same for our host name, with the different that in the end it's going to be test, like I said before. Now probably it's a good idea that we're going to create our database. I'm going to use a MySQL. You can use probably, well, probably you can use definitely different if you prefer. And in my case, I'm using a MySQL workbench to create this. In your case, if you're on Mac, you can use a SQL Pro, or you can use PHP admin, or whatever you like. Okay, let's go to create a database, and we call it API, and the default collection is going to be UT. Let me found it, UTF, UTF default. Okay, we just say apply, and close for the moment, and we have created, as you can see here, Lara API. Okay, let's go back in our project here, and in the database we say Lara API, and the host, the username is going to be root. Okay, and I have very strong password def. Okay, and we just save this file, and let's go to see actually that we can connect correctly with our database. We can do this in the terminal by typing php artisan migrate. Okay, as you can see that we migrate the tables that they coming with the Laravel. That's the user table and the password table. And to see that that's actually working, let's refresh here, and let's open tables, and as you can see, we have the tables working correctly here. Okay, let's go back in our application. So as I say, that's going to be a small articles backend application that's just going to make we're just going to create some articles, and then we're going to consume from the front end. Okay, so for this, let's go to start with creating our controller. Then we're going to create the model that is going to get the database, and then we're going to create more stuff that we're going to need it. Let's start step by step with saying PHP artisan make, and here we say make controller, and we call it article controller, and then we say -r for some resources and press enter. Okay, if you go in your article controller, as you can see that because we put the flag -r, so we have some resources that we can work with that. Okay, in our case we start from the index, and probably we finish with the index because it's going to be quite long tutorial if I'm continue with all the CRUD operations. Okay, well, let's go to return some test, for example, and just see that we can return this in the API format. Let's go to make this happen in the folder that say routes, and under the routes you found the API. Okay, as you know, if you use Laravel before, there's in the web is going all your routes in your application, and in case that you create an API, you're using the API PHP file. Okay, already we have a file that it's for the users, the authenticate users here. Okay, in our case, that's going to be get, and here we need two params. The first param, it's going to be the path. In our case, the path is going to be the articles, and then the second params is going to be the controllers from where we return the data. In our case, articles controller, and the important part here, it is the index method. Okay, we need to close it here, and well, by default, because we're using with the API PHP file here, the facade that we're using in the front is going to be a API, and I show you what I mean by that. Let's go to open the browser and see that this working. Lara API.test that's the domain for the front end. Here's something not working correctly. Yeah, we need to generate a key for our application, as you can see here. Here we need a key that's working correctly. So what we say is that we say PHP okay, and we have the key, means that if we refresh, we get the front end of the default front end for Laravel. Okay, but in our case we don't need this. We just going to need it. We're just going to use it for the API calls, and here we say articles, and we get the test that we just returned from our controller. Okay, well, now here we're going to put the data that we need from the articles, but first of all we have to create this data. Okay, so to create this data, obviously we need a model. So we say, okay, we're going to need a model that we call it article, and that's fine. What we going to need more? Well, let's going to do our seeder, so we can put some data in our table without need to make this manually, and then we create a factory as well. In our case, let's going to say that it's going to be PHP make seeder, and the name it's going to be let's going to see what's the name convention here. If you go in your, we close here and you go in your database folder, then seeder and database seeder. So in our case it's going to be the articles seeder. We're going to call it article seeder. Okay, that's done, and we have to create the factory as well. User factory, we have what we have to create. Well, the factory is going to it's going to put default data that we can use it, and we can work on with this data. Okay, that's going to be we create the factory. And in the end here we just say factory, we don't say seeder because that's done. Article, okay, factory, that's done as well. Okay, so what we have here, it's the let me see, first of all let's start with the article seeder. Let's go to say what we have in our article seeder. Okay, so first of all we have to say the factory, and in this it's going to give a proper space here. We say the factory, and then we say the class here that we're going to use it, in our cases. Okay, and then inside of that we want to create 30 articles. For the moment 30 should be fine, and then we have to say here create. Okay, we just close it. Oops, sorry, not here, we close here. Okay, now we save it, and where is the database seeder? We have to call that one. So what we say is that we just copy the demo that we have in the top, duplicate actually, and we say articles seeder. Okay, and we save. That means that when we run a db seed, it's going to read this class, and it's going to take the stuff that we need from inside. But because we create as well the factory, so now we go in our factory and we say that we want because that's going to be articles. Obviously we want a title and we want body. Let's make it simple. Okay, let's going to make only a title. Okay, and the title, it's going to be, here's the beautiful part, we say faker, and then the faker we need a text, and we need to be not more than a, let's going to say, well, 30 charts, okay, not words. Okay, then below this we say here the body, and the body is going to be, for example, let's say 200. Yeah, 200 sounds fine. Okay, so as I show you here, let's see that we have, oh, actually we have to migrate first this one. So what we do is that we say PHP artisan migrate. Sorry. Okay, nothing to migrate, so we have already create our, let me see, we go in, oops, sorry, sorry, my mistake. Well, we don't have nothing to migrate because as you can see that we already migrate the username and the password. And what we have to do now is that we have to create a table. So how we do this? Again, with the command php artisan, and they make, we say make migration, and that's going to be create articles table. Okay, all right, so let's go to get in our database here, and let's go to get in our migrations, and in the migration we looking for the create articles table. We found the create articles table here, and as you can see by default is coming with it's going to create article table with the ID and the timestamp. Okay, in our case we want as well string of the title, and then we want as well let's go to say body, sorry, body, and the type is going to be text. Okay, so we want and here it's going to, okay, so we have the ID, we have the title, and we have the body, and that should be fine for the moment. Okay, so now if we run php artisan migrate, if you see here, it's going to migrate the articles table. And if we go here and refresh, and we should have an article table, and should be empty for the moment. Okay, we have the ID, we have the title, and we have the body, as you can see here, and it's empty. Okay, so let's change this and let's put some data here. Should we? Yeah, we can do this because, well, while we do the seeder and the factory. Okay, so let's say php no pphp php artisan, and we say db seed. Okay, we have an error here. Let's go to see what's happening. Unable to locate a factor with the name default. Okay, so we cannot, for some reason. Let's go to see here. In our database we say the factory articles factory, well, yeah, this one I have to be up. Okay, yeah, because now it doesn't know that the model here was just a placeholder. Okay, Let's go to save it. Let's go to clean this and try again. There we go. So we have the seeder was working correctly. I hope so that it's working correctly. Let's go to see that it's working correctly actually. Let's go to refresh this one and open the articles again. There we go. We have a titles, we have a body, and we can start working with that. Okay. So let's go in our controller. Here. We don't need the seeder, we don't need that one, and the factory we don't need it. So we're going to close all the stuff that actually we don't need it, and actually the API for the moment we don't need it too. So here we have to return the list of all the articles that we have, and we have to do this with our resources. What I mean by doing this with our resources. So now we have to create resources, and the resources, they going to be a template for our JSON API. Okay, well, the response of our JSON API. So how we do this again with the PHP artisan command, we say PHP artisan, and we say resource and name the article. Let's go to see, you can find the resources on the app HTTP, okay, and then resources, and then article is the resource that we just create now. Okay, so this one we don't need it. What we need is that we're going to start to modeling our data. Okay, so we want to see in our response the ID, obviously, because we're going to use it, and the ID is going to be this ID. Okay, what we want to see more is the title and the body. So here, for example, we're going to use for the title, and here, for example, we're going to use for the body. Okay, let's need a comma between this and that. Okay, and for the moment we leave it as it is, our resources. Just save it. We go back in our article, and now we're going to need two things before that we start before that we make the controller here. The first thing that we need to bring is the our article model, obviously, and that's in app. There was HTTP, and then here we say, and that's our model. Okay, then the second thing that we need is that we say is from the HTTP, from the resources, and because it's again article, we can change the name as article resources. Okay, so we're going to use that. First of all, let's go to make our controller to take the data that we need from the articles from our model. So how we do this is that here we say articles, and here we say the article, that's the model, and we want to get paginate, and we want to get 5 of those. Okay, it means that I'm doing like this because I want to show you after that something very helpful with using resources. Okay, so I'm using a paginate, and that's mean it's going to be 5 articles per page. Okay, and we have 30 articles altogether. Okay, and now down there what we do in the return is that here we go what was it? Yeah, article resources, this one here. Yeah, article resources, and then we say a collection, because that's a collection. I'm sorry. And then the collection of our articles. And let's go to see what we get from here. Okay, here we need a comma, and let's go to we have an error that we can, the class API article not found. Okay, article, what was it? Is it an HTTP? Do we not create? Yes, we create. It's not an HTTP, sorry guys, it's my mistake. We don't need the HTTP in this case here. And boom, well, as you can see here, and I explain what's happening. First of all, yeah, it's look perfect, it's look beautiful, and just the API that we needed. We just do so simple, and that's all the magic happening coming from the resources. Okay, well, like I said, they're going to be a wrapper from your response, and going to respond all your data in very nice formatting way. Okay, what we have here is that because we specificate we need 5 per page, we need 5 articles per page, and then as well we have our links. The links, they quite useful as well, because you can see that it's the first, that's the last, that's the next, that's the previous. So from here you can use very nice navigation, and probably I'm going to do this in some future video. Okay, and then you have some metadata. Okay, and nice here is that, for example, let's go to say that in the metadata is perfect, but we want a little bit more metadata, our metadata. Let's go to say let's go to say here, for example, that's going to be with additional, and inside we say the first, it's going to be the meta. Okay, we want, for example, our version, and the version in our case it's going to be 1.0.0. okay, and let's go to say that we can use something as well. Let's go to say that, I don't know, for example, we say the API base URL. Okay, and this one probably could be helpful in the future when we do some front end there. We say URL, and probably that's, you know already if you use Laravel what's going to return. Okay, let's see that actually this one is working. We go in the meta, there we go, we have the version here, and we have the API base URL here. Okay, perfect. So our API is working. Let's start working on our front end. For the front end, I use a beautiful GitHub repository that I found. If you type CLI, the first repository that you found here is that one that we needed, and you see that is quite actually quite useful. Let's go to see, yeah, so we go in our project, and because we're going to create a little bit different stuff here. So first of all, a yarn log file, we don't need it, so we can delete from here, move to trash. Webpack mix.js, we don't need it, so we can move to trash here, because like I said, the front end is going to be handled by Vue.js and the CLI commands and everything. The package.json we don't need anymore as well. And I think that we should be okay here. Or you can go in your resources and the JavaScript folder, all the folder, just it's gone. Okay, so from here now we can create the application. Let's go to call it front end, like the guys here call it. Let's go to say yarn then create the front end. What's wrong here? Okay. Let me see. Expect an error happening. Give me a second, guys, because here it's something not working as it should work. Okay, let me see. Here and create. Let's go to here and create front end. Probably was me typing something wrong, and I'm sure that you found this one, but because you cannot tell me nothing, well, you just laughing at me. Well, that's fine. As you can see here, I have a pre-built, because I work with this one quite a lot, and I have here done the view with the routes and Vuex and stuff. But let's go to say that in our case we start with the manual select features. Bubble, yes, Babel. Obviously we want to have TypeScript for the moment we don't want. Routes you can select by pressing spacebar. Okay. Vuex, well, obviously you need the Vuex if you're going to consume the API, because you're going to store the API and everything inside in the Vuex. But in our case we're going to do this in the default state manager that Vue JS is coming, because it's just more quickly, and I just show you what I mean by that and what we want to accomplish here. Okay, but in your case, if it's a real project, probably it's created using a Vuex. Okay, CSS process we don't need it. Well, actually we don't need nothing more, so we can press enter. The history, yes, of course, that we want, and then just press enter, 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 and we don't want to save like a default configuration. If you say yes, that's going to save it like a default configuration, means that in the future when you run the create command, you can pick from there and start from there immediately. Okay, that's going to take a little while. What we can do now is that in the front end directory, we're going to create a Vue config file, and in the config file we put a configuration that is getting the proxy, the dev server is getting a proxy our API, so we can manipulate the working with the API without problem. It's going to say as well where we going to put the public, where is going to be the public folder in case of build. Okay. Well, actually, let's go to do this, and you see what I mean by that. In the front end folder that we're just creating now, you have to create a file, and the file it's going to call Vue config, and then we say JS. Okay. Okay, and here inside we have, that's the configuration that you needed. Okay, so let's go to copy it, and we talk about it, what's exactly that is. Okay, again, the dev server, once when we're developing, we can use, in our case it's going to be sorry, that's a little bit slowly, because in the same time we're doing some stuff. It's going to be Lara API. Okay, Lara API, that's the public, that's fine, and that's going to see the path when we go into production. It's going to change. Okay, I think that we are done here. What we can do is that we can see in our front end application, well, the front end folder that we just create now. Okay, and we can say, let's go to change first of all in our package.json. In our package.json, the only thing that you have to change is the below the command build, you just need to change the way that is producing this one, and the way that it's going to remove some folders that we don't need it. So if you go in a package.json, remember that we delayed the package.json from the Laravel, and now we're using the package.json from our new front-end directory create with the Vue JS CLI. Okay, so now we go in the build and you remove this one with that we just copy now, and you save it. And what I prefer to do is the serve change with def. It's just more short and quickly. Okay, we save this one, and now we can say yarn def. Let's come, whoops, let's stop this server, and before this let's save the changes here. We don't need that. Let's go to start again. If everything is fine, it's going to compile and build everything for us, and we can open our front-end project in localhost 8080. Okay, from there I show you how we're going to consume our API. Okay, so if you go, for example, in your browser, you copy that, and we go in the browser here, and we just paste that. As you can see that we have the default Vue.js application built with the route that we have. Let's go to create one. Let's go to create one route actually here. We go in the src file here, and we go where is the view. You see that we have the about and the home page, and from here we say a new file, and we call it articles with the extension view. Okay, and here we say h1 the article list. Okay, for the moment we leave it like this. Let's go include this in our route file. Okay, so we just copy the home, and here we say articles, and the component it's articles, and then the name, it's going to be articles. That's fine. Let's go just put here, for example, we say article. Okay, let's save it. Let's go in the front end. We have some error here, but let me see the article. Yeah, well, obviously we need to import this file. Sorry about that. You say articles, we save it, and that should work perfectly. Let's going to put here a link, so it's going to be more nice user experience. And here we say well, we separate like this as well, and here we say articles, and the directory, it's going to be articles. Okay, so if we go here, we go in our route articles. So now in this route, what we want to do is that we want to list all the articles coming from our API. And that's going to be very easily done by using Axios. So first of all, to using Axios, let's go to open a new window here and say npm E stands for install, and we say Axios, and then we say -- save, because we want to save like a dependency. Okay, there we go. So we have Axios in our project. We want to go in articles, and here we say import Axios from Axios. Okay, so we have the Axios import, and we can start to use it. We have the name here. We want the data object here with return. Okay, and we want the articles. For the moment we just put it as a null. Okay, and we want, when it's created, we want to call a method that it's going to method is going to call it we're going to call it get articles. Okay, and this method we have to create just now. So under the created, what we do is that we say the methods, and here inside we say get articles. And first of all, let's go to see that everything has worked correctly, and we just say test here. Let's open the console log. You can do this with the Control Shift and J. We have the test. Okay, so we have the test. Let's go to perform here our API call using Axios, and we break a line down there and we say get. The first one is where we're going to get where we're going to put and get the URL of the API. Then we say then, where we're going to manipulate the data coming from the API, and then we say a catch, where we're going to put error. We get the error like a param, a arrow function, and in case that there is error, we want to console log the error so we have idea what's happening. Okay, in the get we say as I say, and as you see that we put in our configuration file here, we put the Laravel API test like a proxy, so we can use it. But what we can do is that we can say API and articles. Let's go to see that in then we say the response, well, rest, so you can call it whatever you like, and then let's go to console log the response just to see that everything has worked correctly. There we go, it's working perfectly. What we get here is that we get the response of our newly created API. We have nice wrapped in the data object with all the informations that we're going to need it. We have the headers, we have all the stuff that you're going to need from one API and more probably. It's beautiful because you can model it and you can make it like you prefer and like you want to receive the data. Okay, so let's go to say here, for example, that data, it is data, it's equal to the response. Okay, and here we can say these dot articles. If you remember the articles that we create here in our state management, okay, they are going to be equal to data. Okay, let's see that actually this one is working. For example, if we go here and we say you open a div and then you have to open another div because the for is not happening in the same like a first, well, it's not possible to be a first child of the template. Okay, and we say v4 and we say item in articles, and here it's need a key as well, so we say a key, and that's going to be ID because we have the ID here. What we can do is that obviously we can do h1 for the titles, and we say item dot title, and then down there we say a p tag, and again, but in this case it's going to be item dot body. right? Correct? Yeah, it's correct. We just save it and boom, there we go. As you can see, this data here, it's coming from our API that we just create with Laravel, and everything is work perfectly and everything is dynamically, and it's just a single page application. Okay, and from here everything is getting so interesting because you can do it with well, you can make a show route, and you can make a post, and you can make all this stuff that you can well, you can obviously create with the other APIs. Well, I hope so that it was quite useful for you guys, and I hope so that you see a different kind of wave of architecture, the back and the front end. Thank you guys for watching the video. It was a little bit more longer than the usual videos that I create. I hope so that you enjoyed it, and if you liked the video, I hope so that you subscribe as well and give us a thumbs up. Thank you guys, and see you in the next time. Bye.